You would remember that we had started talking about the personnel practices during the last session. Today we will continue with that. We had talked about the civil service in quite some detail, about the types of bureaucracies in quite some detail, and then we had come to a point where we were going to talk about the classification system followed by various countries. And we had discussed the concept of the classification system. Now we will go into some more details. We did say that there were two types of classification systems, the position classification and the rank classification. We start off with the position classification right now. This is also known as the duties classification system because this highlights the importance of duty and the qualifications required for it. While recruiting a civil servant to any particular post or level. So this is known as the position or the duties classification system. Very popular in the United States. In fact, the system prevalent in the United States. In this, the various available positions are grouped on the basis of the duties, the responsibilities of the would-be incumbent, and the requisite qualifications. So what you are doing is that you are looking at those positions which can be conveniently grouped क्योंकि उनकी जो duties हैं और level of responsibilities हैं, ये level of difficulty है और उनके लिए जो qualifications चाहिए उनका level, ये तमाम मिलते जुलते हैं. तो आप इस एक ग्रुप बना लेंगे और उसमें पोजीशंस होंगे. अब पोजीशन जो है वो पोस्ट है जो सबसे लोएस्ट है उस सिस्टम में या उस ग्रुप में. एंड एज वी सेड बिफोर, इट कनोट्स a set of duties or responsibilities assigned to an employee. यहाँ पे ये बड़ी इंटरेस्टिंग बात है कि इस सिस्टम में फर्क है. पोजीशन अलहदा से रिकग्नाइज हो रही है और इनकम्बेंट अलहदा से हो रही है. उनमें बराए रास्त कोई तल्लक या सिमिलैरिटी नहीं है. दोनों मतगम नहीं है एक दूसरे में. Position and the incumbent are considered as separate entities. और फिर जो आपका status within that group होगा या आपकी जो salary आपको मिलेगी वो 1 लाख भी हो सकती है, 1.5 लाख भी हो सकती है, 2 लाख भी हो सकती है position classification में. लेकिन वो higher होती रहेगी आपकी duties के basis पर. In case you have higher duties and higher responsibilities, you will be paid much higher under the position classification system. So, the crux of the matter is that the most primary focus in this is on the duties and the responsibilities of an individual, not the individual. तो क्या आप करेंगे जब आपने पोजीशन क्लासिफिकेशन करनी है, आप एक क्लास बना लेते हैं उसमें आप सिमिलर पोजीशंस को रख देते हैं। और सिमिलर पोजीशंस का मतलब क्या है? सिमिलर पोजीशंस वही होंगी जैसे हमने पहले कहा कि उनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज तकरीबन एक जैसी हैं, उनकी ड्यूटीज तकरीबन एक जैसी हैं, यानी कितनी मुश्किल वो ड्यूटी है, तकरीबन वो लेवल जो है डिफ़िकल्टी का मुश्किल जिसको आप कहते हैं वो भी तकरीबन वही होगा। तो सिमिलर रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज, सिमिलर ड्यूटीज, similar level of difficulty of the duties. Level of difficulty generally would mean, it could mean a number of things. It could mean you have to work at a place which is not very attractive. It might mean that the work which you have to do is very involved. It's very, very scientific, or it requires a lot of brain and mind and time. In this particular case, it does not refer to the difficulty of the terrain where you're working. It does not mean that if you're working in Quetta, then that is more difficult than working in Lahore or Islamabad. But it would mean that the nature of your work is of such a capacity, so involved, maybe that of a scientist working on a very, very state-of-the-art project in his field. So the difficulty level goes up. So it is very important in the position classification system that we create a class of positions जहाँ पर जितने भी लोग हम उसमें, जितने भी पोस्ट हम उसमें रखेंगे या पोजीशंस उसमें रखेंगे, उनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज, ड्यूटीज और रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी या ड्यूटी का जो डिफिकल्टी लेवल है वो तकरीबन एक जैसा हो। फिर all positions covered in a class have the same qualification requirements and pay scales. जब आप वो तकरीबन एक किस्म के काम को उसमें सारी पोस्ट पोजीशंस को रख के एक क्लास बना लेते हैं, एक किस्म की काम की पोजीशनों की एक क्लास बना लेते हैं, फिर आप कहते हैं कि जी इनकी क्वालिफिकेशंस भी जाहिर है मिलती जुलती होंगी। यानी अगर किसी ने पीएचडी मैथमेटिक्स में की हुई है, एक और ने पीएचडी फिजिक्स में की हुई है, किसी और ने पीएचडी सोशल साइंसेज में की हुई है या एंथ्रोपोलॉजी में की हुई है, तो ये सब साहिबान जो हैं इनकी क्वालिफिकेशन लेवल भी तो मिलती जुलती है एंड पे स्केल। हेंस जब आपने ये देखा कि इनकी ड्यूटीज, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज की लेवल और डिफिकल्टी और क्वालिफिकेशंस भी वही चाहिए हमें एक जैसी, तो फिर जाहिर है पे स्केल्स भी आपको मिलते जुलते देने पड़ेंगे। Positions can be considered raw material of classification and the class as the operating unit. यानी अगर आप मशीनरी की बात करते हैं तो कार में भी द ऑपरेटिंग यूनिट, but its raw materials are let us say, talk about the precision parts of the car, the raw materials, the various parts of the engine, the gearbox, they are precision parts. They are the positions within that operating unit. So we have to look at this classification system as based on positions, similar positions within an overall class. अब आपने किसी भी क्लास को स्पेसिफाई करने के लिए क्या क्या करना है, व्हाट हैव यू टू ले डाउन टू डिस्क्राइब अवर क्लास प्रॉपर्ली, अवर पोजीशन प्रॉपर्ली, उसके कौन से जुज हैं, एलिमेंट्स हैं पोजीशन के जो आपने बिल्कुल क्लियर कट वाज़ेह कर देने हैं ताकि आपका क्लासिफिकेशन सिस्टम कामयाब रहे और उससे जो हम फ़वाइद हासिल करना चाहते हैं वो कर पाए. सो वी विल हैव अ नेम फॉर द क्लास, अ टाइटल. देन वी विल हैव मिनिमम क्वालिफिकेशंस फॉर दैट क्लास. We'll have minimum qualifications for this class. जैसे मैंने पहले कहा कि वो minimum qualification जो है हो सकती है PhD, वो MS भी हो सकती है. It could be even less than that, it could be a bachelor's. तो आप जब ले डाउन कर देते हैं मिनिमम क्वालिफिकेशंस, फिर आप चलते हैं ड्यूटीज और रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज की तरफ कि जनाब इसकी अब हमने नाम भी दे दिया इस क्लास को, इसका क्वालिफिकेशंस मिनिमम भी ले डाउन कर दी. अब हमने उसकी ड्यूटीज और रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज की डिटेल्स देनी है, डिस्क्रिप्शन देनी है, क्योंकि हमने शुरू में ही कहा था कि ये जो भी क्लास है, जो भी पोजीशन है, वो ड्यूटीज पे बेस्ड होगी, रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज पे बेस्ड होगी और उनके डिफिकल्टी लेवल पे बेस्ड होगी. फिर एक और स्टेप फॉरवर्ड, टिपिकल टास्क्स. अगर हम एग्जांपल्स दे दें कि आपने क्या टास्क्स करने हैं तो बड़ा कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव सी बात बन जाती है. यानी वी आर टेलिंग द पर्सन, द इनकम्बेंट, वी आर टेलिंग द सिस्टम दैट दिस पोजीशन रिक्वायर्स दीज काइंड ऑफ टास्क टू बी डन. लेट्स से द पोजीशन इज ऑफ अ इंस्पेक्टर, then we'll say that the person has to do so many inspections in a week, that the person has to see these aspects during the inspections, that the person has to create or maintain records about these inspections on considering the following points and in this manner. तो ये सारा जो सिलसिला है टिपिकल टास्क ले डाउन करने का, इससे बहुत कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव हो जाती है हमारी एक्सरसाइज. ज़ाहिर आप स्केल ऑफ पे तो बताएंगे ही, इट कुड वेरी फ्रॉम द लीस्ट फॉर द लोएस्ट पोजीशन एंड सो ऑन. तो स्केल ऑफ पे आपने बता दिया, लेकिन जो इनकम्बेंट है, जिसने सिविल सर्विस में आना है, not only concerned about pay but also about future prospects. So you have to lay down the prospects of promotion, how much time it may take, what kind of efficiency levels have to be achieved to get promotion, what kind of trainings have to be undergone to get promotion. तो पोजीशन क्लासिफिकेशन में ये सब जब आप डिटेल्स डाल देते हैं तो बहुत कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव एक लैंडस्केप इमर्ज करता हुआ हमें नजर आता है. अब इसके हम देखते हैं कि एडवांटेजेस क्या है. व्हाट आर द एडवांटेजेस ऑफ दिस सिस्टम? इक्वल पे फॉर इक्वल वर्क. ये बहुत ही पुराना कॉन्सेप्ट है और बहुत ही अच्छा कॉन्सेप्ट है कि आप डिस्क्रिमिनेशन नहीं कर रहे हैं. आपने अगर कोई खास काम करना है और उस काम की एक नोयत है तो आपको एक खास रेम्यूनरेशन या एक खास पे मिल रही है वो काम करने के लिए, क्योंकि आप सिविल सर्वेंट हैं. यू आर नॉट सपोज टू वर्क विदाउट पे. और अगर दो सिविल सर्वेंट्स तकरीबन एक जैसा ही काम कर रहे हैं और इक्वल वर्क कर रहे हैं, इक्वल अमाउंट ऑफ वर्क कर रहे हैं, इक्वल डिफिकल्टी लेवल का वर्क कर रहे हैं, दे शुड गेट इक्वल पे। तो ये डिटर्मिन ये डेफिनेटली इस सिस्टम में बिल्ट इन है, ये डिफाइन कर देता है सिस्टम, जैसे हमने पहले देखा था, व्हाट पे विल यू गेट फॉर व्हाट काइंड ऑफ वर्क। तो आपने एक किस्म का इंश्योर कर दिया दैट एवरीवन डूइंग द सिमिलर टाइप ऑफ वर्क इज गेटिंग द सेम पे। ये इससे बहुत फेयरनेस आ जाती है, बिकरिंग नहीं होती, हार्ट बर्निंग नहीं होती। फिर इट डिफाइंस contents of job in detail, hence facilitates objective performance appraisal। हमने जो इतना कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव पहले इसको बनाया है कि हमने टाइप ऑफ वर्क बता दिया, जॉब इन डिटेल बता दिया, टिपिकल टास्क्स बता दिए और बाकी एस्पेक्ट्स भी आपको क्लैरिफाई कर दिए, तो उससे सिस्टम को भी एक फ़ायदा हो रहा है। सिस्टम को ये फ़ायदा हो रहा है कि आपने जब किसी को एवेल्युएट करना है, देखना है कि किसी ने कैसा काम किया है, आपने उसकी अप्रेजल करनी है, जो कि हमारे यहाँ एनुअल परफॉर्मेंस रिपोर्ट भी होती है, एनुअल कॉन्फिडेंशियल रिपोर्ट भी होती है, एनुअल अप्रेजल के नाम से भी चलता है। तो ये जो आपने परफॉर्मेंस अप्रेजल उसकी करनी है, मे बी एट द एंड ऑफ द ईयर, बट नॉट नेसेसरली, इट कैन बी इवन पीरियोडिक फॉर शॉर्टर पीरियड्स, बट एट द एंड ऑफ द ईयर इट इज डेफिनेटली गोइंग टू बी देयर। तो वो बहुत आपके लिए आसान हो जाता है, यानी सुपरवाइजर के लिए आसान हो जाता है कि ये काम इसने करना था, किया है कि नहीं। आप आसानी से टिक मार्क करते जाएं एंड यू विल कम टू अ फिगर और टू सम काइंड ऑफ अ डिसीजन कि जी इसने कैसा परफॉर्म किया है। और इसके क्या फवायद हैं? इट कैन हेल्प स्टैंडर्डाइज रिक्रूटमेंट, ट्रेनिंग, probation, manpower planning, career development। जब आपने इतना क्लियर कट बता दिया है और लिख दिया है, covering all aspects, तो फिर what kind of training should that person get? You have told him this is your job. You have assessed him while inducting on the basis of that, of the class and the position system. You have assessed and know that he has these qualifications and he is going to do this kind of work. And for the higher post also you have done the same work. These are the typical things the higher post requires to be done. These are the qualifications. So it becomes very easy to take one person from a certain level of skills or knowledge to another. Through training, you would exactly know what kind of training you want to give that person once you have done the performance appraisal of that person. तो ट्रेनिंग और प्रमोशन दोनों में ये मदद कर रहा है आपकी. So another advantage of this very detailed classification system is that it will help you in determining the sort of training you will be imparting the civil servant, and also on what basis you are going to promote him, because you would know exactly after performance evaluation whether the person, the civil servant, is ready for the kind of jobs or responsibility or duty to be assigned to him on the higher post which has been clearly spelled out. और इसमें मैन पावर प्लानिंग का एलिमेंट आ जाता है. You would know what kind of people who you want, at what level and how many. This is manpower planning. You know what kind of jobs are being done by the organization. You know what kind of talent, what kind of education, qualification, what kind of other qualities you need in the person for those jobs. And you also know how many such jobs are available. So this whole process is manpower planning. और मैन पावर प्लानिंग में करियर डेवलपमेंट का एस्पेक्ट आ जाता है, क्योंकि हमने देखा था जब सिविल सर्वेंट इंडक्ट हो रहा था तो उसके जहन में ये बात थी, हाउ फार विल आई गो। तभी उसने सिविल सर्विस ज्वाइन की, क्योंकि उसे प्रमोशन और साथ साथ बेटर जॉब्स, मोर एक्सपोजर, हायर पोजीशंस, ये सब कुछ नजर आ रहा था। इसी को करियर डेवलपमेंट कहते हैं। तो इसी तरह वो आपको उसकी सिविल सर्वेंट की करियर डेवलपमेंट में मदद देगा, ये सारी एक्सरसाइज जो आप पोजीशन क्लासिफिकेशंस की कर रहे हैं। इसमें एक और बहुत अच्छी बात यह है कि जब आप असेस करते हैं एक बंदे को ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द जॉब्स ही और शी वाज सपोज्ड टू परफॉर्म, और उसने कैसा परफॉर्म किया, तो आपको एकदम उसके मेरिट का पता लग जाता है। तो हो सकता है कि एक बंदा जो 10 साल से एक पोस्ट पे, एक पोजीशन पे, पोस्ट पे है, उसने इतना अच्छा परफॉर्म ना किया हो जो एक नए आने वाले ने अभी 6-7 साल में कर दिया, उससे बहुत बेहतर परफॉर्म। सो ऑटोमेटिकली आपको मेरिट का पता लग जाता है कि ये बाद में बंदा आया है, द सर्विसेज ऑफ दिस पर्सन आर मच लेस but the performance is much better. So you can follow a process of promotion on merit without heart burning. Because if everything is clear and transparent and in accordance with what the exercise you have done and is very clear, certain facts have been recorded, certain things were needed, so you will just tick mark certain things and you will know who has more merit. And that kind of transparent record would be available to the person who may not be promoted, and then that person will not bicker that much why the junior has been promoted. He may not feel that bad when he is confronted with all those reports, comprehensive reports of what he was supposed to do and what he has done. और इसमें एक और अच्छी बात यह है, जो भी आपने काम करवाना है, जॉब की जो रिक्वायरमेंट है और जो क्वालिफिकेशंस हैं इनकम्बेंट के, उनको आपने क्लियरली स्पेल आउट कर दिया. सो नेचुरली यू विल गेट द राइट मैन फॉर द राइट जॉब if your other elements of the recruitment process are good enough. तो एक मैच हो जाएगा जो भी काम उसने करना है और इसकी क्वालिफिकेशन में. और एडवांटेजेस, इसके और भी एडवांटेजेस, वो क्या है? वेल डिफाइंड लाइंस ऑफ रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी. आपने तमाम जो काम उसने करना है, जो ड्यूटीज परफॉर्म करनी है, उनका हर लेवल के लिए डिटर्मिनेशन कर दिया. दैट मीन्स you have defined the kind of responsibility which will have to be taken up by each and every individual clearly. और इसका बहुत फायदा होता है ऑर्गेनाइजेशन को. अगर क्लैरिटी आ जाए कि आपने क्या काम करना है, आपकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी क्या है, the quality of the work would definitely be much better. In fact, by most or all of the incumbents, because everyone is competing, everyone knows what they have to do, and everyone wants to get promoted naturally. एक और इसका फायदा कि अगर आप lateral entry करना चाहते हो, खास तौर पे अगर आप बाहर से, प्राइवेट सेक्टर से गवर्नमेंट में नया ब्लड लाना चाहते हो, you want to infuse new blood into the civil service, because civil service may be degenerating, may have become status quo oriented, may not have been able to adapt to change, may not know certain latest techniques and technology. Then relevant to the job, of course, then you may consider bringing in people from outside, from the private sector. It could be the academia you want to bring in people from. It could be multinational corporations. Any private sector organization, in fact. If you do a headhunting and find a right person, you can bring them in. Why is it easier? Because you exactly know the requirements which have to be fulfilled by the new incumbent coming from the private sector. And this also reduces, I wouldn't say eliminates, but reduces personal discrimination and also political discrimination. Personal discrimination, because if the boss doesn't like you for one reason or another, but the records show that you have been performing, and the records show on the basis of what you were supposed to do, what were your typical tasks and how you have been performing them, then the boss cannot do much to block your promotion. Similarly, political intervention. If the political master, if the minister doesn't like you, he can't do much to stop your promotion. Or alternatively, if your typical tasks are transparently defined, it will be difficult for a political person to get you to do a job which is not correct. So that aspect of political intervention is also minimized to some extent. And it also facilitates adoption of uniform nomenclatures, which means that the designations which are given to various posts would be uniform in nature. It will be easier to recognize who is doing what from that name, from that designation, from that nomenclature, because you have position and then a class comprising of positions. For all departments, it would be similar. So you can have uniform designations and nomenclatures based on, in all the departments, based on the same principles. Now, what are the disadvantages here? It introduces rigidity hindering horizontal and vertical movement. Now we are talking within the system. बाहर से तो आपने अगर कोई लेके आने थे प्राइवेट सेक्टर से लोग, वो आप लेटरल एंट्री के जरिए ले आए. But within the system, if you are an anthropologist and you want to move on to the social work department, it may be difficult, because the qualifications and the detailed kind of description required for jobs is in keeping with the mainstream social work, not anthropology. Similarly, if you want to move from one aspect of dealing with finance, let us say audit, towards public expenditure, or towards revenue raising, that is collecting taxes, there may be some rigidity for a person to move from a tax collecting organization to an audit organization. Although overall the discipline is the same. They are financial matters. This was horizontal mobility. And for vertical mobility also. It is rigid because you have to have all the qualifications laid out for the next post. For example, if the qualification laid down for the next post is a PhD, but you have only done your MS. But with your MS, you have done all the work very well and your performance reports are excellent. You might be even better than someone who is a PhD on the next level and doing the work. You may perhaps be performing better than person if you are promoted to that post, but you will not be promoted. If you don't have a PhD, you have not earned your PhD by then. So that makes life a little difficult because vertical movement is not all that easy. Another problem about this system is, now this is from the organizational point of view, that you have to lay down so many details about each post, etc., that you end up spending too much time on preparing such a system. And time means money. And it has to be revised continuously. आपने बिल्कुल इसको साथ साथ अपडेट करते जाना है, क्योंकि ये बहुत जल्दी आउटडेट हो जाता है सिस्टम. आपने एक टाइम पे अगर टिपिकल वर्क्स कोई एक चीज, एक पोस्ट एक के लिए रखे हैं, एक पोजीशन के लिए रखे हैं, तो टेक्नोलॉजी में एडवांस इमीडिएटली और उसके बिल्कुल नेचर ऑफ वर्क तब्दील हो जाए, फिर आप क्या करेंगे? You have to change the duties, the responsibility, the type of work he or she has to do. So it means that an ongoing process, there has to be some team of dedicated people to keep on updating it immediately. And at the other end, if you are updating so frequently, there might be frustration amongst the people coming in. They have been preparing for some other kind of duties and responsibilities to get into the public service. But when they come to take the exam or enter that public service, they find that the duties and the approach is drastically changed. So it can also make employees feel insecure about their status and compensation. क्योंकि उन्हें पता नहीं vertical mobility होगी कि नहीं, given their qualifications and everything, उनका status क्या होगा. तो सिर्फ इंडक्शन के दौरान प्रॉब्लम नहीं हो सकता कि आपने तैयारी कुछ और की है लेकिन कई सालों से, लेकिन उस वक्त तक उस पर्टिकुलर सर्विस के लिए और क्वालिफिकेशंस हो गई और टाइप ऑफ टास्क में महारत की ज़रूरत पड़ गई. इसी तरह स्टेटस आपका जो है, यू नॉट श्योर कल क्या होगा, और आपकी पे जो है कल क्या होगी. I mean, after promotion, whether you will be promoted or not. So they say it is not suitable for developing countries undergoing socio-economic transformation. यानी एक मुल्क अगर बहुत तेजी से तरक्की कर रहा है, डेवलपिंग कंट्री है, तो उसमें जो डिफरेंट टास्क परफॉर्म करने पब्लिक सर्विस में, वो भी उसी तेजी से चेंज हो रहे होते हैं. So, if you evolve and adhere to a position classification system, this may not be suitable. It may create more confusion. Because also at the other end, there are a lot of things which are more general in nature and can be done by a generalist in developing countries. So, again, working out typical tasks and specialization aspects could be not counterproductive, but it could slow things down, and it would not be realistic. For example, in Pakistan, the kind of work done by a district coordination officer is not easy to record, and because it's multifarious. So in developing countries, there may not be so much specialization or requirement for specialization at times. Hence, some people say the system is not suitable for developing countries. And in order to administer this system, to make it work, you might require expertise. एक आम एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव ऑफिसर इस किस्म के सिस्टम को शायद बहुत अच्छे तरीके से ना चला सके. आपको एक्सपर्ट्स चाहिए होंगे, क्योंकि आपने लगातार इसको अपडेट करना है, आपने वो सारे रिकॉर्ड्स रखने हैं, आपने गाइडेंस देनी है प्रमोशन के बारे में, इंडक्शन के बारे में, और खासी कॉम्प्रिहेंसिव गाइडेंस देनी है. इसलिए आपको जो लोग रखने पड़ेंगे इस सिस्टम को एडमिनिस्टर करने के लिए, उनकी अपनी क्वालिफिकेशंस, उनकी अपनी स्टैंडिंग और उनकी एक्सपर्टीज इन मैटर्स में इस किस्म का सिस्टम चलाने में निहायत ही अहम होगी. अब दूसरा जो सिस्टम है, दैट इज कॉल्ड रैंक क्लासिफिकेशन. दिस इज कंप्लीटली डिफरेंट. दिस इज बेस्ड ऑन रैंक एंड पर्सनल स्टेटस ऑफ इंडिविजुअल. इसमें इनकम्बेंट या इंडिविजुअल इंपॉर्टेंट है, पोस्ट इतनी इंपॉर्टेंट नहीं है. जो रैंक इनकम्बेंट की है वो इंपॉर्टेंट है. तो क्या होता है, एम्प्लॉइज को हायरार्किकल ऑर्डर में, और उन्हें पता होता है कि वो प्रमोट होंगे इसी ऑर्डर में, क्लासिफाई कर दिया जाता है रैंक के मुताबिक. यानी आप सेक्शन ऑफिसर हैं, आप डिप्टी सेक्रेटरी हैं, आप जॉइंट सेक्रेटरी एंड सो ऑन. सो एम्प्लॉइज आर क्लासिफाइड एंड नॉट द जॉब. जॉब के बारे में कोई, वी आर नॉट सो बॉदर्ड इन द रैंक सिस्टम कि ये डिप्टी सेक्रेटरी साहब ने क्या करना है. ठीक है, जॉब डिस्क्रिप्शंस बनाते हैं, होती हैं, but not detailed like those in the position classification system. Employees are classified and not the job. As such, civil service is organized around the incumbent. The incumbent or the officer becomes important. वो कहते हैं कि ऑफिसर इस किस्म के सिस्टम में अपने जॉब को इनलार्ज भी कर सकता है, can take on responsibilities of other people who are not performing it well, if you are performing well. So you are important. Your job or your position is secondary. और हायरार्किकल नेचर है इसका, सीडी है पूरी एक, and you can go to higher posts easily, much more easily. And each employee is placed in a group or a service and not a position or a post. You are employed as a member of the police service or a member of the Pakistan Administrative Services, which was previously District Management Group, and it was previously CSP, Civil Service of Pakistan. Or you get inducted into the cantonment services, cantonment board services, or the taxation services, finance services. So you are placed in a group or a service and not a position or a post. You enjoy a position or a post, but you are placed, you belong to a service. Your salary and your status depends on your ranking in the group and not on the posting. So you may be posted as commissioner in a division or a provincial secretary. They are different posts, but your ranking in the group in the district management group will remain the same, and your salary will almost remain the same. Maybe some perks are different. Advantages of this are, it's flexible. So interdepartmental transfers are possible because the job description is not so detailed or the qualifications are kind of similar or not spelt out that much. So it is more suitable to the generalist cadres of service. The E is missing there. So when we come to specialization, or if you go to have very, very specialized services, this is not the right method to follow. It is a simple scheme and is easy to administer. Another very interesting thing, it promotes loyalty to the civil service. You have that in-group feeling. I'm part of this monolithic, this big, powerful civil service. So let me be loyal to it. I know I will get promoted. Most probably I'll get promoted. So let me be loyal to the civil service. So this generalist approach, this group or service approach, this civil service approach makes you become loyal to the civil service. But it has one other aspect. You may become too loyal to the civil service. You might want to do everything to expand your own powers and position to the detriment of the public whom you are supposed to serve. Because bureaucracies always want to expand and assume more and more power, which at times means less efficiency. Again, the system does not get outdated soon. It's so general, it's not detailed. The promotions take care of the changing technologies and the changing times. The trainings associated with promotions also take care of this. And it makes employees feel more secure. As I already mentioned, they know they got a set out, clear-cut career path. So it emphasizes career opportunities and attracts competent people. Now, what are the disadvantages? It hinders specialization. Very big disadvantage. And we all know that this is the age of specialization now. And we find many generalists in our country heading specialized organizations. You might find a person who has spent a lot of time in the field as deputy commissioner or commissioner heading the science and technology division or the information technology division. They may be people with a lot of brain power, people quick to adapt, people who have come through a competitive exam and have done well, people who are well-rounded. But the kind of background you need for heading the Ministry of Science and Technology may be completely different. So, this aspect of specialization is one major drawback. And it also violates principle of equal pay for equal work. Because in the system, many a time you will see that certain groups are getting much more allowances or privileges. Or certain posts within the group are getting special allowances and privileges. So this makes things a little tough on the others. They'll be bickering, and some people feel that injustice is being done. So this is also a major disadvantage. Also kindly note that whatever the advantages of the classification system on a position basis are the disadvantages of the classification system on a rank basis. And whatever the advantages of the rank basis classification system are disadvantages of the other system. So we'll be talking about recruitment now. But before that, I would like to re-emphasize about the rise of the merit system. We have already seen that before the rise of the merit system, there were three systems in vogue. तीन मेन जो तरीक़ाकार थे रिक्रूटमेंट के, उसमें स्पॉइल सिस्टम था यूएस वाला, यानी पॉलिटिकल पार्टी अपने लोग लेकर आती थी जब पावर में आती थी, की अपॉइंटमेंट्स पर उनको लगा देते थे. इसी को हमने पैट्रनेज सिस्टम भी कहा जब ब्यूरोक्रेसी डिस्कस कर रहे थे. और ये यूके में भी, और पैट्रनेज सिस्टम यूके में था, चला कुछ देर, और वहां पे उसके बाद कास्ट सिस्टम या वो एरिस्टोक्रेटिक सिस्टम आ गया. लेकिन फ्रांस में एक बड़ा इंटरेस्टिंग सिस्टम चल रहा था और वो सेल ऑफ ऑफिसेस का था कि जो भी इन पावर होता था दे वुड सेल द पब्लिक ऑफिस. ओके, you want to be a tax collector, you are going to pay the government so much and keep the rest, or we are going to sell this office for so much. Pay us $1 million every month and we are selling this office to you. So this was what was happening in UK. लेकिन competitive exam का और डायरेक्ट रिक्रूटमेंट का, ओपन सिस्टम का सिलसिला जो था वो सबसे पहले चाइना में 2nd century BC में अडॉप्ट हुआ, way back. And they say that this was the brainchild of a civil servant and the father philosopher of China known as Confucius. Or Mandarin is a word which stands for a very high officer. So Mandarins was the name given to this civil service system which evolved in China. तो गोया दूसरे जगहों पे पैट्रोनेज सिस्टम चल रहे थे, स्पॉइल सिस्टम चल रहे थे और सेल सिस्टम चल रहा था पब्लिक पोस्ट के लिए. लेकिन चाइना में उस वक्त 2nd century BC में कंपेटिटिव एग्जाम्स हो रहे थे और क्वालिफिकेशंस की बेसिस पर, ओपन कंपटीशन की बेसिस पर, मेरिट की बेसिस पर मैंडरिन्स भर्ती किए जा रहे थे. सो दिस इज द बैकग्राउंड ऑफ रिक्रूटमेंट. What is recruitment? Recruitment can be considered as the cornerstone of the whole public personnel system. Naturally, recruitment will determine the quality of the human resource you are getting. And that quality, hopefully good, hopefully very good, will ensure the success of the administrative system. That will help create a well-trained, responsive bureaucracy catering to the needs of the common man. So proper recruitment can ensure efficiency of the government and the quality of the services being provided by the government. तो ये गवर्नमेंट्स के लिए, पॉलिटिशियंस के लिए, पॉलिटिकल पार्टीज के लिए भी बहुत ज़रूरी है कि बजाय मनमानी करें और अपने अपॉइंटीज पॉलिटिकल लगाएं, एक प्रॉपर इफेक्टिव रिक्रूटमेंट सिस्टम के तहत जो लोग पब्लिक सर्विस में आए हैं उनको काम करने दें, उनसे काम लें. मेक श्योर दैट दे वर्क प्रॉपर्ली एंड इंडिपेंडेंटली एंड ट्रांसपेरेंटली. और अगर आपने सही तरीके से रिक्रूटमेंट की हुई है, दैट विल इंश्योर that quality of services are provided by these men and women who are in the public service. Recruitment क्या होती है? What do we mean by recruitment? Recruitment is just the filling up of vacant posts within the civil service, but with the best qualified and competent persons, and through an aggressive search from relevant sources of supply. आप रिक्रूटमेंट करें, लेकिन जो आप रिक्रूटमेंट कर रहे हैं आप इंश्योर करें तरीकाकार ऐसा कि क्वालिफाइड और कॉम्पिटेंट लोग सिविल सर्विस में आए. और उसका एक तरीका यह है कि आपने उन लोगों को ढूंढना है. It is not easy to get good talent. It is not easy to get people with great traits of heart and mind, integral, people with good qualifications, people with integrity, people with morals, people willing to serve the public. These traits are not easy to come by. Some of these can be developed through training, but right in the beginning, you got to get the right stuff. अगर आप अच्छे लोग रिक्रूट नहीं करेंगे, जिस किस्म के लोग रिक्रूट होने चाहिए वो नहीं करेंगे, तो ट्रेनिंग उनके लिए कितनी फायदेमंद हो सकती है? उनका ये नुकसान या फायदा क्या करेगी वो? If the raw material is not okay, what is the finished product going to be? So, an aggressive search from the relevant sources of supply is one way of doing it. Now there are some negative aspects of recruitment which I'd like to talk about. In other words, what should not be done? What should not be part of the recruitment process? And why is that so? Why are we doing that? कि हमने गलत किस्म के लोगों को, wrong type of people, उनको सिस्टम में नहीं आने देना. As they say, one fish can spoil the whole pond. Well, we have many fish around. So, negative recruitment aspects aim at keeping the unqualified and non-suitable persons out of the system. Extremely important. How do you do that? Keep the rascals out. How do you do it? Not easy. Even though you have mounted an aggressive search to get the right people, you may have brought the universities in your ambit. You might be going out, reaching out to certain people this way. But still, it would be your actual recruitment system and keeping politics out of the system, out of the recruitment system, which will to some extent ensure that you get the right kind of people. So, the negative aspects are those of political interference, that of favoritism, and you have to minimize these and in fact eliminate them. If you can eliminate political intervention and favoritism from your recruitment process, it is a very big step forward. Very big step indeed. In Pakistan, we see a more than proportionate or logical number of offsprings, daughters, sons of senior civil servants and bureaucrats coming into the civil service. Is that the caste system of bureaucracy? Is that favoritism? क्या ये डिस्प्रोपोर्शनेट लोग बहुत क्वालिफाइड हैं इसलिए आ जाते हैं? हमने पॉलिटिकल फेवरेटिज्म को, ब्यूरोक्रेटिक फेवरेटिज्म को दूर रखना है अपने प्रोसेस से, अपने रिक्रूटमेंट प्रोसेस से. Then only it would be possible to ensure that the right kind of people make it to the civil service. So what we are saying is, unless recruitment policy is soundly conceived, there can be little hope of building a first-rate staff. This is Glenn Stahl. Authority on Public Administration. क्या कहता है कि रिक्रूटमेंट पॉलिसी को आपने बहुत साउंड लाइंस पर डिजाइन करना है, क्योंकि इब्तिदा यहीं से है, शुरू यहीं से है. और अगर आप वो नहीं करते हैं तो रिजल्ट्स आपके सामने होंगे. व्हाट इज द आउटकम गोइंग टू बी? That the human resource quality, which is the backbone of any organization, will not be up to the mark. There can be little hope of building a first-rate staff. So all the people on whose shoulder in a developing country like ours rests the provision of all kinds of services to the people, a large number of whom are living under the poverty line. If we don't provide them with the right kind of people to serve them, then part of the fault would be that we were unable to design a sound and nice and logical recruitment system which managed to keep the rascals out. And towards the end of the lecture today, we'll just recap a little bit about what we discussed. We talked about the two main systems of classification. The position classification, very much present in some developed countries like the US, Taiwan, and others, and the rank classification, which is very popular in the subcontinent. A legacy, of course, from the UK. Now, position classification we found was very, very suitable for inducting specialists, because there is a detailed description of what the duties are, what the responsibilities are for each position within the class. So if you have to be promoted for the next position, it is clearly spelled out what is required, what should be your qualifications, what kind of duties you're supposed to perform. In fact, the typical tasks are enumerated. They are spelled out. So, the position classification is very suitable for developed countries, whereas the rank classification is specially suitable for countries like ours, developing and undergoing socio-economic transformation, where it is not easy to determine what next, what kind of jobs. Jobs keep on enlarging. We try to tackle that through training. In the position system, everything is specified. Very little chance of lateral entry or mobility of any sort. Even upward mobility and vertical mobility are limited. Unlike this, rank classification is much more flexible. In the position classification, you got a number of positions which make a class, but in the rank classification, it is not the position, it is not the post which is important. It is the incumbent who is important. So, we have these incumbents, and they make up a class, they make up a group or a service. Like the police service of Pakistan, like the postal service of Pakistan, like the audit service of Pakistan. So there is a loyalty to the service, to the civil service, to your group. There are good and clear-cut hierarchical rungs, and more or less you know your chances of promotion. So this is very much tuned towards career development and manages to attract people because of this clear-cut career development. The requirements for recruitment, qualifications, etc. are not that stringent. So both the position and the rank qualification system, rank classification system, both have their merits and demerits. Their advantages and disadvantages. We mentioned some of them, and the advantages of the position classification system happen to be the disadvantages of the rank classification system, and vice versa. Both of them have certain advantages. And then we looked at the rise of the merit system, of how in China we got the first merit-based, competitive exam-based bureaucracy in 2nd century BC. And at that time, France was selling its administrative posts. UK had a patronage system, wherein people from the aristocratic elite were being appointed to key posts, and the US had the spoil system, wherein reps of the political party who had not been elected but who had supported the party would get these key posts. And then we looked at some recruitment characteristics. The importance of the recruitment system, how the whole edifice of the public service and the administrative system rests on the quality of this human resource which we have to recruit. And how do we recruit it? We need talented people, we need qualified people. We have to keep the rascals out. How do we do it? We should have a recruitment system free of political intervention and favoritism. That is easier said than done. Thank you.